I think in part we are definitely products of our environment, and so that's why we need to be particular in how we create our environment.
And he was on his last legs. He
Yeah.
was really, really sick. Like, he was hanging around during the day, which, although they're more likely to do that in the winter, is uncommon. They're a nocturnal marsupial. We're talking about something that's, over a foot long.
Welcome to the Big Small Podcast, where I speak to adventurers, advocates, and authorities in nature, and we talk about the small things in life's big picture. I'm your host, Jaden Lunt, and in today's episode, we are up to part 2 of my conversation with Cesar. Amongst everything else, I also touch lightly on my old fear of dinosaurs. So, without further ado, let's get back into the conversation.
Yeah, from someone like Judith, who is a world-class birder, is like probably globally recognized as being a good birder, to other guests who, like Jack and Luke from the Violent Soho, who came on, and they like birds, but they're not birders. And that's I love introducing those people to this community and being like, you know what, it doesn't matter if you don't know as much as a hardcore birder. We need
still have fun.
We don't need 2% of people who really, really love and know everything about nature. We don't need them and then everyone else not knowing much. We need we need 60 to 70% of people who all know a little bit and care enough to do something, and that's what I want to pursue. That's what I want to push.
Yeah, I can see that.
More regular people getting into nature and it's intimidating. The community can be intimidating. Even what I'm doing, I started this podcast about birding and have somehow been put into a position of authority in bird watching that I'm not. I'm not a good birder. I'm really not that good compared to other birders.
Well, people being like, "Hey, I need to identify this bird," and sending you ID photos.
Oh no, I can do that. But what I mean is that I'm not speaking on behalf of a whole community.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
but with some interactions you've had, it seems that is happening.
I just think that people can look at my podcast and think that I'm therefore an authority on bird watching, and I'm not.
Well, it's because you sound cool and look cool.
That's why. Thanks.
That's why.
It's just wearing snapback caps. It's cool. And so I want to make it more inclusive of everyone. I want to make sure that it's not as intimidating as people think it is. I don't want people to feel bad when they get IDs wrong. I don't want that, it's a learning process. I think that, I don't know if you found this in the reptile community. I think it's in all communities, but there's a level of supremacy that certain people have, and there's a gatekeeperiness to finding wildlife, and we just got to get rid of that nonsense. It's just so detrimental. It doesn't help anyone.
I'd say you're right. Yeah, it doesn't. You're right.
We're all on the same team. We all care about nature. We might do it slightly differently, but there's no point trying to execute each other for the minor discrepancies or the minor things that we all do a little bit differently or don't do as well. Or you said that this bird was this instead of whatever. It's like, you know what? That's not the way to approach it. You don't, you're not going to change hearts and minds by just berating people online.
Yeah, 100%. In those situations, it's completely pointless. One of the only, I would say, times that, one of the few times that it is definitely important and that beration is kind of necessary. Justified, yes, is when someone is fauna spotting and then they find a rare species of bird and then it closes down the site and then there's like a couple $1,000 lost over days because people misidentify, and then that messes up the process of things and puts holds and whatnot. But I would say that would be the only time that.
So what is that?
Justified.
What does that mean? So are you talking about if there's like a development going on?
Yeah. So fauna spotting. Do you know what fauna?
I do. Yeah.
So fauna spotting. If I was to go out and I'll use me as an example instead of blaming other people. If say I was to go out and I saw a endangered species or new species, whatever like that, in a collection of shrubbery, bushes, whatnot, in the site, if I was to call up my guy, my boss, or tell the foreman and be like, "Hey, we need to stop now. There's something else in here that's potentially endangered." If I was to incorrectly, that's why information needs to be kept under wraps sometimes in regards to the broader public. I don't go on Instagram all the time and be like, "Oh, guys, I found this endangered species," but that'd be a bad thing on my part.
Right.
But yeah, if I could potentially affect the works for that day or that afternoon, if we're on the pump, that's a couple $1,000s lost.
So are you talking about in terms of like
merely an
your
exception.
ability to identify that is the problem?
What I'm saying is the only exception is if it's your job is what I'm saying.
Because I think that I think that in the example that you've given, I think that the alternative of not making that call to be like, this is potentially something critical and not ceasing it would probably be worse. Do you think in that instance? Do you think that like
I see what you're saying?
If you're like, I'm not confident with my ID, so just go ahead, and then you like clear a bunch of green-thighed frogs or something like that.
Well, I guess in that circumstance, in that side of the story is just don't make sure you get photo evidence.
Yeah, and you need to. Yeah, I think it's good to be, especially if your job is to be able to identify wildlife.
Photo evidence and clear communication, and not just being kind of reserved and holding information. Because we've got different personalities, but people who think they know everything and they've found the cool thing, and it's like, just very limited information to certain people. I mean, this is again a very theoretical story.
So we're just focusing on hypotheticals. But because
the point being, generally, people.
You need to be open, and I think it's important to
more
be
encouraging with other people who may not know the bird species.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, as well, like it's not a bad thing to be corrected of an ID. I think sometimes, especially in certain circumstances.
No, definitely not. Well, if you've got the humility to be able to accept
I get stuff wrong all the time. I always get stuff wrong. Like sometimes it's hard, and I'm often like, I think it's this, and someone will be like, it's actually this. I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely spot on.
You are right. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. But it is hard to take sometimes. I think a lot of people are like, don't. And there's a good way to do it, and there's a bad way to do it.
Yes,
and I think that's critical. But just being inclusive, making sure that doesn't scare people off, because like we're trying to make a team, right? Like as environmentalists, as conservationists, as people who care about nature and animals and stuff, we're trying to make a team, and we might all have some different ideas about how to do that, but at the end of the day, our goal is the same.
Yes,
right. And we're never going to get everyone on board with the exact same ideas ever. It just doesn't happen. No. Human beings don't work like that.
No,
there is not a single thing.
We have free will.
We have free will because we have no choice, and so we will. There's not a single topic on earth that every single person can agree on. There is not a single topic that every single person on earth can agree on. So therefore, if we want to be successful in what we do as conservationists and as environmentalists, we have to accept that and then figure out how to move forward. What are the goals as environmentalists that are the most important? And like, if we can find that, then great.
Yeah.
If we can even agree on that.
If we can agree that there's a common ground, and there is so much to know, and so many different opinions and experiences that people have had, and that also then kind of taints how they see information as well. And we're
products of our environment and of
I think in part we are definitely products of our environment, and so that's why we need to be particular in how we create our environment, who we hang around, and that sort of thing.
Man.
And with your uncle, that was part of your environment. He impacted your, sounds like a lot of your life. Like
Not
this,
everyone...
it started out in mushrooms, which is really cool. Look, because my strengths obviously is reptiles, snakes, little bit of birds. But I love like the micro side of things as well. And so that I wish I was so much better at it.
You can be though.
Can be. Yes, exactly. And so there's I'm not restricted by what I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing everything. And keep in mind that like my whole journey is like framed with, you know, I had a very privileged upbringing. I was very like, not everyone has an uncle that is a mycologist. You know, not everyone gets that, you know, introduction. Not everyone has the ability to go, oh, I might study 1 degree and then, you know, take some time off and play some music and play guitar and hang out in bars all the time. And then go, actually, I don't want to do this. I get to get, you know, not everyone gets that.
No.
I'm like super aware of how lucky I've been and how much like harder my journey could have been. And so like I try and enter this space as an environmentalist with that in mind. That like, yeah, it's easy for me to be a conservationist and an environmentalist and a birder and to care about wildlife and to do what I do and to muck around with the podcast. It's so easy for me to do that because of, you know, how I've been conditioned in life. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I also want to create a space that allows people that maybe didn't get the introduction that I did to get involved in that.
Yeah, which sounds like and looks like you're doing pretty well, because you got people who are interested in responding to you.
Yeah, it's cool,
there
man.
is that bit of that.
I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, as I said, I don't want to create like 100 mega birders. I want to create like 10,000 okay birders.
That's good. That's good. Was that your slogan?
I should be.
I think it should
get
be.
that on a t-shirt.
I think it should be. That's a good slogan. You got the.
It'll look really good next to the drawing of me getting ripped apart by an owl.
yeah, 100%. And I'll make sure to put the podcast details down the description underneath, and also your YouTube channel, and the Instagram. Then you'll be able to see them.
The Pobblebonk stuff.
The Pobblebonk,
that stuff's so rubbish.
The owl. You get rid of part of the owl. That was my point.
Yeah.
The cartoon.
Oh, the cartoon. Yeah. If you want to see that stuff, just find me on Instagram. Yeah.
And that's going to be the best spot. There's lots of cool stuff there.
Yeah, Death by Birding or Cesar. You say the name.
Piyush Marin.
Piyush Marin.
Piyush Marin.
Yeah, when I first said that on the podcast, I introduced myself. I was like, oh, I'm Cesar Piyush Marin. I think my wife listened to it and it's like, why did you say the surname? Like, no one's ever going to be able to say that, and no one cares. Like, no one cares.
No, well, it specifies who you are, because there's a couple of Caesars. I mean, you had Cesar, the guy who had, ruled Rome.
A bunch of Romans.
Cesar,
Cesar Milan. The dog trainer, Cesar Milan.
He's around right now?
Yeah, he's around. And then there's the Caesar salad, famous in salad world. You know.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
The greens. Do you like greens?
I do. I love. I don't eat meat, so Caesar salads are basically just bread and mayonnaise, but and lettuce. But yeah.
Initially, when we were starting up, I was like, "Hey, this is a clean podcast," and you're like, remind me to tell you that you have a story. Is that your story?
Oh, yeah. I do have... No, that's not my story at all. But you can cut that whole joke out and then just put this in, and everyone will always wonder what the joke was.
Yeah, 100%.
No, when I came in, you're like, this is a clean podcast. And if you've listened to my podcast, it's not a clean podcast. No. It's like... And I feel really... I have birder friends who are elderly retirees, and they're like, I want to listen to your podcast. And I was like, you probably shouldn't. Like, you're not going to like it. But the story was that... my wife got a message from a friend who was like, oh, we've been listening to this bird podcast and your husband's the host and whatever. And it's like, yeah, we love it. We listen to it on a road trip with our kids. And I was like, this is not the bird podcast to listen to with your children. I felt so bad. I was like, oh no. Like, I put an explicit
They've been tainted for life.
Yeah. And it's not because I intend it to be rude. It's just that the manner in which we do it, which is just often two people just hang out and chatting, like, a few things just slip out and I can't be bothered beeping them.
To beep it.
The frog vlog is
beeped.
We just put frog calls over it. So every time we say a swear word, it's just like...
That's sneaky, so it just sounds like you're out in the bush.
Yeah, well, we wanted it to be obviously frog calls. We thought that would be funnier, but because we are surrounded by frogs...
I did not pick that up at all. Yeah. I would have... that's very...
it's often
funny.
the frog that we're looking for in the episode as well.
Oh,
We tried to. Yeah, we tried to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible YouTube series. 'Cause
That's like a what do you call them? Like on games, and you go behind a rock and you kick
an Easter egg.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an Easter egg.
It is a bit like an Easter egg. But the reason that, it's a very low effort YouTube series because it was genuinely me being like, we should just film
pretty alright
us
editing.
going out.
It's pretty alright.
Well, that's the only thing that made up for it was that we kind of were just like, let's just go do what we normally do and try and film a lot of it. It's kind of what I do with the podcast. That's why that's bad too.
It's bad. It's bad enough that everyone loves it. So that's something. That's
well,
something.
some people, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with it. How long have we been talking for?
Like an hour and 5 minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
pretty good. Yeah, well, since we just paused it, I just wanted to. Yeah. What we will do.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do now.
Yeah.
Is do, the overrated, underrated questions. Yeah.
Rapid fire?
Yeah, pretty much. So, if that's not the answers, no, it's not good.
Wait, there are answers?
No.
How can you? I thought it's about my opinion on things. What's your favorite frog? Filori Kundagungun. I've got that as no.
Wrong.
That's
It's
wrong.
the green tree frog.
Damn it. It's like Monty Python. What's your favorite color?
Whatever we wanted to be. Overrated, underrated.
Okay. Describe the premise.
So I have 5 questions. That's overrated, underrated. Now you have to respond with either overrated or underrated.
Okay, yeah. What
and
if I don't think it's either? What if I think it's rated?
Then you tell me that.
Rated.
Then it's just you say it's rated.
Moderately rated.
Yeah.
Well rated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if
Accurately rated.
correct,
Wonderful.
rated, just generally rated, over or above or equal. Number 1
Yes.
being able to identify feathers.
Look, I'm gonna. Yeah. Being able to underrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Just from a feather. Underrated.
Underrated.
I was about to say, I don't like dichotomy. I don't like black and white things generally. Like I'm kind of like,
Sometimes
there's a
that's
lot of
just how
color
life
and
is.
there's a lot of grays and stuff. Like if you ask me my favorite something, I would genuinely struggle because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
It changes. I don't really have favorites of much, you know.
Right. A very rated guy.
Yeah, I would say adequately rated.
Just generally
Very
adequately
mid.
rated.
Yeah. Okay, so
but that's underrated. Right on. So this is what you think it is. So verse number 2.
Verse number 2. We're about to sing.
There's a 1, 2, chorus. Don't know.
Oh, these are my song ideas. Books.
Yeah. While you're at it, I really thought I knew you were coming. I was like, I've actually got a whole band back here. That I've got a drum set.
Yeah.
When going out exploring, birding, herping, etc., to be dressed in the right gear to get in the vibe. Overrated. You should just go out in thongs and jocks.
I think whatever you're comfortable with. I dress like a bit of a twat all the time. I always wear the same stuff.
You do it well.
Yeah, I generally just wear like greens and khakis and I think a lot of people think that's because it's like my look, whatever. It's because I'm pretty lazy. I really don't like having to think what I wear.
You put your shirt. I've seen a photo. You got your shirt tucked into your pants. That doesn't look lazy.
Yeah, sometimes I like
it's very
it.
classy, lazy.
I'm not doing it right now.
No, definitely not.
But in terms of the colors and stuff, like I dress like
greens, browns,
khakis.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm in a 1940s David Attenborough doco, like really like real lame nerdy stuff, like and
then you add the binoculars around your neck.
Yeah, got to get them vintage bins on.
Yeah, and then maybe a patch, just like a birders patch on the side.
Yeah, no, I
1940s, that's it.
Yeah, but I don't really wear that stuff because it's practical in the field or anything, or I think I'm more camouflaged. Like,
it's like surely you're not.
No, I wear that stuff because it's kind of what I like, and I don't have to think about the combos. I can just put on anything. But to answer your question, why I think it's overrated is because I think that you've got to wear what's comfortable to you, and I think that if especially if this is what's holding you back going into the field and doing stuff, is that you don't have any like
style, field style.
Well, if you don't have any whatever brands, I don't want to name brands or anything, then like that doesn't like, no one should feel judged for going out and not having like the brand new hiking boots or
100%. Frick,
like
it's definitely not me. Definitely not. I've got a really cool vest that I found at like Vinnie's.
Yeah.
It's got so many
stars
pockets.
and like a moon embroidered in it and stuff.
No, definitely
not that kind of it. You're not studying
no,
amateur magician.
No, definitely not one of those guys with the pointy hats.
Yeah.
No, it's a very cool vest. It's got like pockets galore.
Nice.
It's look, I might even show you after.
I'd love
I
to
feel
see
so
it.
cool.
Yeah,
I feel so cool. Number 3, getting outdoors alone.
Look, I love it. I don't have to do the one word thing, don't I? Underrated.
Underrated?
Yeah, absolutely underrated. But in saying that, it's not something that everyone can do. And I think that it depends on whether or not you can do that safely or not. And I would want to make that very clear.
Yeah, okay, safety, right.
I know what I'm doing. I'm going to places that are relatively safe for me. Not everyone has the privilege to do that. Might not live in a place that's safe enough to do that. Might not be a 32-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making
Might
it very
not be
clear.
a young guy is what you're saying, a young bucker such as yourself.
And so but I personally, I love going out into nature by myself.
Yeah. What do you think, I guess, is like a big benefit you gain from that?
Yeah, a few things. I find it very meditative. There's very few distractions aside from nature. I think it's easier to find wildlife by yourself if you're doing it well, because of those distractions. Obviously, you lose the benefit of having someone else there to like help you out actually spotting stuff. But I've found some of my more successful outings have been solo. Was it at night by yourself or just in nature by yourself?
Just get out in nature.
Right, because I go out at night by myself as well.
That's creepy. Sometimes I start thinking I've got such a wild imagination. Like when I was younger, I couldn't put the bins out for I think I was till I didn't want to.
Dad, I can't put the bins out because I'm scared.
No, dead set. One of the reasons I was up until like 14, 15, I was dinosaurs. I thought there was going to be a T-Rex that would come down the street, like, because the bin's like right at the road. So I thought like I really did struggle with it. And so like, honestly, even like, I'm not lying. It's really scared me. And then
man, if my kid said, I'm not taking out the bins because of dinosaurs, I'd be like, get out right now.
I still did it. I'd like, not all the time, but I still did it. Like when I remembered, it really scared me. Like one time I went to White Rock with my sister, and there was near the entrance a semi-freshly ripped up kangaroo carcass.
Oh yeah,
right next to the main track, and I was like, Bigfoot.
Oh really?
Yeah, I did.
That was the one time.
Exist.
Well, it was one time you didn't think it was dinosaurs.
I know. I moved on to mammalia. Yeah. I knew it wasn't Bigfoot don't exist, but I was like, I know there's dingoes around here. I've seen a dingo get hit by a car on Ripley Highway here. Well, actually, it hit the car. Actually, it ran into the side of a car, bounced, and ran back into the bush.
Wow, there you go.
Weird, strong dingoes.
There is stuff that you have to be afraid of.
Like Venus
in nature. I think, of course, you have to be careful.
Snakes,
there are things
spiders.
There are snakes.
It's not as bad in Australia if you're and the Americans listening.
Yeah, well,
you should still come over.
Yeah, and plus, like, we don't have wolves and bears, and mountain lions.
I don't know why Americans freak out.
Yeah,
because like that stuff actually going to eat you.
Yeah, legitimately,
limb by limb, while you're alive.
Yeah, there's last time I checked. There's no anti-venom for getting your jugular ripped out by a mountain lion.
No, I don't. I don't think there is either.
Yeah. So, but look, and all the times I've been afraid in nature haven't been because of wildlife. It's been because of humans.
Creepy. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah. Always. People are way scarier than wildlife. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. They are ones that could actually rip your limbs off in Australia.
Yeah.
Getting a cheat sheet again.
What's the next one?
Number 4. Kissing frogs to find your prince or princess.
Ooh. I'm going to say if you're into hallucinogenics.
Not that I'm aware of.
Underrated. Otherwise overrated. Don't go kissing frogs, people. Leave them alone. Don't kiss frogs.
Doesn't work?
No, well, I don't care if it works or not. Don't kiss frogs. It's not right. They don't like it. They've got very sensitive skin.
They don't like it.
No.
Emotionally speaking.
Physically, emotionally, just biologically, they
Just
frogs
frog-
have
frogogolly.
yeah. Well, you know that frogs have very. I know your joke is obviously facetious. However,
I'm taking it seriously.
I should point out that frogs have very sensitive skin. You know,
Yes.
they cutaneously respirate. They absorb a
Which
lot of
is
their
cool.
oxygen through their skin. So basically, they have their lungs on the outside of their body. They don't literally, but it just means that their skin is really prone to a lot of diseases and bacteria and like stuff like chytrid fungus, which has been hugely detrimental, but lots of other pathogens.
Chytrid fungus.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it grow like shrooms on them?
No. Well, maybe on the microscopic, but it's
Right.
this. We're not going to go into too much detail.
Copy.
Because mushrooms are they're more a microfungi. So imagine mushrooms as being like a macrofungi, and then chytrid is like a microfungi. So more
okay.
more similar to like your molds and your yeasts and stuff like that. And it'll grow on the skin and it'll block their skin,
breathing.
and then they're unable to breathe.
Yeah,
basically.
right. So they pretty much suffocate to death.
In a way, yeah. So they're unable to do that respiration process. Even our skin, if you covered all of our skin, like we would die as well. So, so yeah.
For long periods of time, obviously.
Well, it depends on.
I was
on
covered
the
in
sort
mud
of
when I was a kid. Does
Yeah.
that explain my brain damage?
maybe. But yeah, don't go kissing frogs. If that's the one thing you take from this podcast, it's don't go kissing frogs, please.
No kiss.
There are, however, hallucinogenic toads that I think if you do kiss them on the venom glands, you could potentially have a psychoactive experience and find your princess.
Dogs
Prince.
do that as well. Maybe that's
They
what
do.
they're licking toads to find their prince or
Yeah,
princess.
you don't know what they're going through.
Weird dogs.
Yeah, they get addicted to it.
There, I saw it here. Or they die. They either get addicted to it or they die.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
the two.
I think that's like most things, to be honest, in life.
you get addicted to it or you die.
Yeah.
Good vibes. Number 5, ornithobia.
Is that a fear of birds?
Extreme fear of birds.
Extreme
yes.
fear of birds. Overrated.
Why do you think people are so fearful of birds? Sometimes.
Well, look, I dare not try and crucify someone for having an irrational phobia. Phobias are real and they're irrational. and
Don't crucify them. Just whip them.
Right. On the way up. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're like flappy and they fly around. Same reason people don't like moths and stuff. They seem a bit unpredictable. They're in a 3D world. Like we forget that even though we live in a 3-dimensional world, we tend to only move 2-dimensionally, right? We move forward and backwards. We can't go very far up high without a plane or some other mechanism.
No.
So
Have you tried flying before?
yeah, heaps when I was a kid.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you build one of those planes? You know, like Red Bull, they do the whole build the plane thing that looks as realistic or spastic as you want and then run it off a bridge.
Right.
Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah,
No.
well, they make like planes that they have people in that they run. They run off a ramp that
Do they
goes
work?
into the water. Sometimes, yeah, they get some distance and they go up and down.
Right.
Other times it's just off the edge and goes right down.
Well, no, I've not done that.
Right, okay.
I used to have a lot of dreams as a kid where I could fly. And I'd wake up and be like, can't do it.
Damn.
But yeah, we kind of move on this 2-dimensional plane a lot of the time and don't get to enter that realm very often. And I think that it's the unpredictability of things coming from those directions. We kind of feel in control on the ground, right? We don't feel as in control of the sky.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned on the podcast before, but it's one of the reasons why I'm not super keen on sharks and swimming.
Yeah. Have you ever dived?
No, I would love to. I've drowned a couple times almost, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't like
Almost
water, really.
drowned.
Yeah. So that was a good experience for myself. But that's one of the reasons why I don't like sharks and water, because I'm sure you've tried running in water. It's not easy.
No, I haven't. However, I would say this, that diving does change your perspective of that. Because once you go down there,
Well,
it's being on the surface.
You got the mask, you got the goggles, you got the backpack. Like I'd feel more comfortable because I can see.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? Is that when you're snorkeling, again, you're in this 2-dimensional plane. You're hovering on the surface. You can go down a little bit or whatever, depends on how good you are at holding your breath. Once you're diving, you're down there. You're in the same realm. You can move around. You can do other stuff. Everything feels a lot less threatening than when you're sitting on the surface, not able to, you're kind of just stuck there. And if a shark wants to get you,
then it will.
which most of the time, like
gonna happen.
genuinely, they're not going to do it.
Like rationally, I can be like, yeah, they're not going to. But
Yeah.
then I also see irrationally, and / rational for them seals, as I see a great white shark fly up into the air and do a backflip somersault and then land on his tippy toes and then go back into the water with a seal in his mouth.
Yeah, off the coast of South Africa. I think that happens only in a very specific time of year in a specific place. Most of the time, they're just doing their own thing and they don't really want to eat people. But again, these are irrational phobias, and I think a lot of people have irrational phobias, and they're hard to get over. People are afraid of spaghetti or something, and like you can't be like, "Why are you afraid of spaghetti?" They're like, "It grosses me out," and they don't like it. And
Swim with it; it's fine. It's 3-dimensional.
Yeah, but I don't think, despite the name of my podcast, I don't think birds are very dangerous.
No, I don't think you do. No, but it's a really good name, and it's a good decision. Good name, but what were some other options that
I didn't have any.
You didn't have any. That was just your first one. You were just death by burning.
Yeah, I thought of it ages ago, like years and years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, death by birding. That's funny.
Yeah, it's cool. It's easy.
And then when I decided to do the podcast, I used it. I wish I had a cool story. I wish I could be like,
you don't.
Yeah, it's the last thing my great uncle said to me
before he died of
in a submarine accident.
Yeah.
While visiting the Titanic.
I've heard that story recently. In every single fish tank I've had that's like 6 foot, I've swam in it.
Really?
100%. Every tank. I've been in that one. I've been in this one.
Yeah.
I had another one before that. I was in that one.
Why?
Just because I can't fit in my little 1 foot that I bought originally, or my 3 foot or my 4 foot. And I was like, I've got a 6 foot. I'm freaking swimming in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can be like, yeah, I've been in that.
Yeah,
I've hung out with the fishes. Yeah.
Well, you've kept the fish in there.
Yeah. Well, I swam with the Oscar. I used to have an Oscar.
Yeah.
I swam with the Oscar. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was pretty chill.
He used to have one until he got pushed out of the fish tank while you're in there.
Yeah, I learnt I tried out in that one first, and then I learnt for that one that I can't have it too high.
Yeah,
when I was filling
because
it
all
up.
the water comes out. Right?
Yes, because water
you take up
displacement.
most of the.
Oh yes. Yeah, I tried pranking one of my sisters. It was super murky, and I had my snorkel on, and I went to the back of the tank on the far side, and then got my other sister to get the other one to the front.
Yeah,
and then I came forwards and tried scaring her.
Did it work?
Actually, no, it was my little brother, and kind of did. He looked at the camera because I got it recorded. He looked at the camera, kind of shocked, and was like, "Wait, hold up, huh?
Yeah,
there's a human being in this thing."
Yeah. There's a dead body in that fish tank.
There was. It was me. I stopped breathing. I've been.
That was the first time I almost drowned.
Yeah, I just look. Drowning just isn't a good experience.
I can't imagine it is.
Yeah, and I've been caught in a couple of rips before.
Oh yeah.
That have just pulled me out a little bit, but then there was no ground.
Yeah.
And then my brain again. See, if I can if I can imagine a T-Rex or Velociraptor coming down to eat me, or some Bigfoot sitting on top of the roof that's going to jump and freaking eat me when I walk out from underneath the roof.
Yeah.
I can easily imagine a little shark eating my toes.
Eating your feet. Yeah,
my toes.
Absolutely.
I care about my toes.
Do you?
Yeah.
They've never done me any good.
No, really?
They're overrated.
No, I'm adding that. Overrated. They're so good for balance, and they've saved me many a time. But anyway, yeah, eels. They also make me feel uncomfortable.
You don't like eels as well?
Yeah, well,
just water snakes. You love snakes.
Yeah. The eels. I think it's the longfin eel can grow up to 3 meters long and weigh up to 20 kilos, I think. And that's freaking huge.
Yeah.
And my toes don't feel safe.
Fair enough.
So there was but there's a couple of reasons why I don't like water. Anyway, it's enough about my toes and on the podcast. You wanted the bird segment? No, there's a toe segment.
Yeah. I hope you don't have what's the phobia of feet?
Footish phobia.
Oh, is that it?
No,
Say-
it sounds a bit like the interest instead of the not interesting. You got a fair few different tats on you.
Yeah.
It's not one sleeve. You just have a bunch of seemingly random animals.
Yeah, stickers.
Yeah. Well, I also heard I see you got the spotted quoll. Is that spotted quoll?
Yeah, spotted tail quoll.
I heard just as we close on your recent podcast episode, you did a trip with a mate. Looking for quolls. Where'd you go for that again?
Went to a few spots. So went to Bunny Benue National Park first off, where I'd seen them before.
Which is where?
Which is like northern New South Wales, Granite Belt, near Tenterfield.
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful part of the world. Really, really love that whole part of the world.
Yeah. How far away is it?
Probably 4 hours from Brisbane.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not far.
Might be worth going.
It's definitely worth going.
Okay.
I've done a bunch of work with a property down there called Quoll HQ, Quoll Headquarters, run by Steve Haslam, just outside of Tenterfield. That's where I saw my first ever quoll. So that was awesome. Saw my first big male spotted tail quoll, and then found a family of them in Bunny Benue National Park, just down the road from there. So Quoll Headquarters is kind of surrounded by a bunch of different national parks.
Awesome.
And some of them are like Girraween, Bald Rock, Bunny Benue. So I got my first ones in Bunny Benue, and then since then I've seen 9 spotted tail quoll individuals now over the past few years, just trying to find them. And
so
find
cool.
Them. And so, got information a little while ago of a big old male hanging around
the campsite?
The campsite at Bald Rock.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give this location away in publicly like this if I didn't think that male was probably already dead.
Yes.
Just because
He was pretty munted, I heard.
And he was really habituated. Like, so spotted tail quolls, despite doing very poorly nationally, they tend to do very well around campsites because they eat trash. They eat people's rubbish. But they have a very short lifespan. So kind of the big ones only live to about 3 years. The males, they're dasyurids, so they fornicate rapidly and over very short periods of time they develop sort of a myopathy.
They go so hard at it that they kill themselves.
Basically, yes, it's like our Antechinus and our Phascogales. And so they don't have a huge window for mating or breeding, and the big males will take up a whole area, like a big range, and those campsites end up being those. So in all of those campsites, through certain times of the year, there'll be quolls passing through, eating rubbish and stuff. And it's not great. It's not a great way to see quolls. I much prefer the moments where I've seen them, seeing them road cruising, driving through Barrington Tops and seeing one run across a road to me is a much nicer moment
experience because it's unexpected
than seeing one like try and get into my sandwich bag or something. And so so tried a bunch of different spots. We ended up finally finding the male at this Bald Rock campsite, and he was on his last legs. He was really, really sick. Like, he was hanging around during the day, which, although they're more likely to do that in the winter, is uncommon. They're a nocturnal marsupial. We're talking about something that's, over a foot long. Like, they're relatively big
love
animal.
to see one in the wild. That'd be so
It's
cool.
wonderful. Yeah, they're really beautiful. They're that rusty orange with white spots all over
It's
them.
like a cool possum.
Yeah, well, they're kind of what
sharp
they are.
teeth,
Yeah, like a carnivorous possum.
Possums have sharp teeth, yeah.
And they, this was probably his last season. And he probably only had a few weeks left, I think, before either getting pushed out of the habitat by a younger, stronger male that we saw actually that night as well, spotlighting. We ended up finding another male, and I think he was kind of hanging around the outskirts of that habitat, and he was going to come in. But yeah, unfortunately, I mean, even if you went to Bald Rock campsite now or whatever, and there was another quoll, you might not see him. They don't just stick to those campsites. They have a huge range, and they'll move around. And
do you know what that range is?
I off the top of my head, I don't really remember. But I feel like something like
several Ks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Like, I've heard of them traveling. I don't even want to say, but maybe like 10K or something huge. So they can really cover a huge range. And
well, with brown snakes, they've got a range of about 1K.
yeah.
So generally, and they're a very nomadic animal. So
Yeah.
I guess generally speaking, it's between that around that 700 meter mark, maybe 700 to a K, I guess.
I actually underestimated my thing. So it's more like it can be up to 25Ks apparently.
Yeah,
So
which is quite a distance.
that's a big range. That's a really big range. So they're really loosely distributed. Very few individuals as the big apex predator, native apex predator. And so sadly, I don't think we'll ever see that big male again. But it was wonderful, and we saw him during the day when he was trying to rip through our food, and then he went and had a nap like near our car. And
So mad.
yeah, it was weird. I don't love those interactions with urbanized animals. And he was very sick, and he's the sort of animal that if he'd come into our hospital, I don't know if he would have made it.
Here I am, like, that's so cool, and you're like, it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you got to see something up close in a situation where you, generally speaking, you wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
That's cool. The not cool part is that he's sick, and then you may have to.
Yeah, exactly.
If he came into your joint.
Yeah, exactly. So that was great. That was with Caleb and Liz, who have both been on the podcast, and I'll definitely be going back down to suss out those populations in the future, and
right on.
Yeah, hopefully do some more work with Steve and Quoll HQ. And,
dope.
They're a good animal.
Yeah. Well, they look really cool. I think the only one I've actually ever seen was at the
Ipswich Nature Park. Zoo.
The one in Queen's Park.
They've got two. They've got an eastern quoll and a spotted tail quoll.
Yeah, I think they're the only ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, probably sleeping.
I struggled to find them a couple of times. I don't think I've even been down to that granite belt.
Oh, really?
No,
it's worth just going down.
Yeah.
Even, not to necessarily see quolls. They are a hard cryptic species to find. Like, they're not easy. Even if you know where they're hanging around, there's no guarantee you'll see them. It took me multiple attempts of scoping out at quoll headquarters where I knew there was a big male living on the rocks. He'd been picked up on camera traps frequently, and it still took me ages to actually spot him.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We've finished the podcast there. Thank you very much for coming on and giving us all your stories and experience. It's been good to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too, Jaden. I hope this has been okay. I don't know if this is what you wanted, but here you go. This is all I've got to offer.
100%. And I think there's a lot more that you do have to offer conversation-wise, but time-wise, maybe one day I'll get you back on. But
sure, man.
You've got plenty of life experience that you've had and plenty of cool chats that I'm sure that could still be had.
Sure, man.
But until next time,
And let's go bird watching next time.
Sounds good. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have any suggestions on topics or guests that I should have on the show, let me know by heading over to www.thebigsmall.au. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.